As many of you know, my aim is always to inspire you as we deep dive into the journey of life. My hope is that the messages I share will inspire you to think more deeply and to find inspiration and wisdom in every step you take. Today, we're going to do this by getting clear understanding of both the differences as well as the relationship between our journey and the destinations we move toward. So if you're ready for some powerful new insights, join us on the Life Design Podcast for today's episode titled Your Goal is Not Your Why. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe now so you can join us on every episode. We truly appreciate it. And be sure to engage in the comments section of your favorite platform for your chance to be invited as a guest on one of our episodes. Welcome back to the Life Design Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Borland, aka Coach Michael. Today, we're exploring a powerful idea, which I was reminded of through the quote by Trent Shelton, which is this: don't confuse your path with your destination. Just because it's stormy now doesn't mean you aren't headed for sunshine later. Don't lose faith. So, how do we benefit by internalizing that message? Well, I remember a long time ago, a point in my life when everything seemed like it was going wrong. Okay, no matter what I did, it just seemed as if nothing worked out the way I wanted it to. Now, that doesn't mean life was bad, but my efforts, they just weren't working out the way that I was wanting them to or was expecting them to. And I know y'all can relate to this. And honestly, I'd love to actually talk through some of your experiences. So if you're interested, reach out to me here at the podcast, and maybe we'll bring you on as a guest on one of the episodes. That said, at that time in life that I'm referring to, there was something that just seemed different. Okay, I was working hard. I was really working smart on myself. I was reading lots of growth-minded books. I was working with mentors. I was doing well in my health. I was even getting promotions at my job, and I was also building a business of my own. The strange thing about it was that even though all of these different areas of my life were doing pretty good, the path that I was trying to walk was it just was very different at every twist and turn, at least different from what I expected. And the craziest part of it was that when I made it to my planned destination, I realized that all I really cared about were the experiences I had along the way. The destination itself, it just felt like, oh, well, this is where I'm at. Um, you know, honestly, once I had arrived, I wanted to work my way to something else, to somewhere different. And the gravity of what at the time I felt was the oddity of this experience, it actually taught me that our path or our journey is both completely separate as well as intimately intertwined with the destination that we're heading toward. And thinking back on it, thinking back on all of it a while later while I was working with a client, it was actually a few years later, I realized at that time that I needed to develop I needed to develop a deeper, richer understanding of the journey, and not just that particular journey, but all of the micro journeys that make up my personal journey of life, and not just my journeys, but those of my clients as well. I knew I needed to develop a deeper and richer understanding of them. So I set myself on another journey to actually make that happen. And what I discovered was that there are there's two different ways that these insights can reveal themselves to us. Either the path itself is on point. Okay, it's going the way we want it to. And the destination when we get there turns out to be wildly different than what we had planned or expected. The other way it can happen is that the path that we're taking, even though we expect it to go a certain way and we're kind of planning it to go a certain way, it turns out to be wildly different, which was my situation. But then it turns out that it gets us to that planned destination, that planned end goal that we wanted to get to. Either of which, okay, regardless of how it happens, either of which can feel very disheartening at the moment when we're in it. I also recognized that that my findings, okay, that what I got from doing that deep dive at the surface level, it was so mundane that I usually had overlooked things. Okay. And the more I dug into it and the more I talked to clients about it and friends and family members and coworkers and such, almost everyone in my personal and my business life was doing the exact same thing, whether they realized it or not. And most of the time they didn't realize it. Listen, the it's no secret, okay, that the life is a journey with many twists and turns. Okay. Sometimes we might even feel lost or uncertain, but it's important that we remember that these detours within our journey, okay, they don't define our destination. They're just a part of the journey, of virtually every journey. So think about it. How many times have we heard of someone whose life was turned upside down, but in the end, they were glad that it was because of where they wound up in the end, where it actually got them when it was all said and done? Because it led them to where they truly wanted to be, or even to somewhere better than maybe they initially thought possible. They had a higher level of appreciation for it. I mean, how many times has this happened to you? Think about it. Okay. It doesn't even have to be, life doesn't even have to be, or the journey doesn't have to be turned completely upside down. Sometimes it's just a minor curve, but we feel like it's completely disrailing us. Then afterwards, it's part of the story that it's the part of the story that means the most to us, right? I know for most people that I've spoken with, which is literally, I would say on this particular subject, probably a couple of hundred people over, I don't know, the last dozen years. This is actually the story for the majority of their difficult times, regardless of what the situation is. The majority of the time, they appreciate that struggle in the journey more than making it to that end goal itself. Okay, I want to point out something else, something that we all forget at times, right? Because we've all faced these storms in life, haven't we? Right? We've all faced them. Times when everything's seemed like it was against us, okay? But there's beauty in these storms. It may not feel like it when we're getting thrashed about, right? We feel like we're going to drown before, the storm ends, so to speak. But those experiences actually teach us. They're the biggest part of what shape us and sometimes lead us to new paths and to new places that we may never have imagined. Okay. We often recognize it when it's somebody else, when it's someone else stuck in that storm. So why is it that when it's us, it's so hard to remember that we will appreciate these struggles when they're over? In the midst of our storms, it's vital to look towards the sunshine, so to speak, to look toward the hope and the possibility that does lie ahead, even if we can't see it right now, even if we can't see it at that moment. It's not always easy, okay? But staying optimistic, it can change our entire journey. It can change our entire outcome. So, what are some simple but proven strategies that any of us can use to stay focused? To, let's say to stay focused on the positive possibilities. Okay. Especially when we're blinded by what I'll call the poop storm, right? When we're blinded by that, what are the strategies that we can use? Well, quite frankly, they're no secrets, okay? They're not hidden from any of us. The problem isn't that the strategies that we can use to stay positive through these storms, the problem isn't that they're too difficult or that they're unavailable. It might just be that they're so obvious and so simple that we don't appreciate them, that we don't use them consistently. Okay, so I'm going to give you 10 of the top methods that you've most likely already heard of, but that you likely fail to use when you need them. And by the way, you actually fail to use these when you need them because you fail to make it a habit of using them when everything's going well. So, simply put, meditation and mindfulness. We hear it all the time. How many of us use it and how consistently? I'm going to say gratitude. I was thinking gratitude journaling, but I'm going to say gratitude and journaling. And I'm going to pause on this one for a minute because a lot of people don't really think about how to journal on this. We just said a minute ago we failed to use these things. We kind of forget about them. We forget that this is going to be over, and when it is, that this is the part we're going to actually look back and appreciate more often than not. But if we actually wrote our challenges down as we're going through them, it gives us something to look back on. I'm not even talking about journaling everything, which is still a good idea. You know, if we just journaled, if we just had a challenge notebook and we made comments as we went through it, and then when we got to the end, we went back and said, hey, here's what I appreciated. Here's what I learned from it. Then a year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, whenever it is, could be a week later, we can look back at it and go, crud, I'm going to get through this. You know, I'm going to learn from this. So I'll digress. I'll end it there. Let's keep going here. So the next one is positive affirmations. And by affirmations, I simply mean self-talk. Okay. Repeating to ourselves the positive things. Recognizing negative thoughts, negative words that are coming out, particularly though what we're saying to ourselves, our thoughts, and intentionally shifting them to be positive. Okay. Recognizing we're getting negative and intentionally shifting it to be positive. It's not always easy, but it is very simple. Okay. Staying connected, right? Stay connected with people that support you or groups. This way you get an outside perspective rather than hiding from it. because you're going through struggles, stay connected to people that support you. Okay. Physical exercise. I'll jump in with that one real quick. I don't even need to go on about that. Exercise will definitely help you get through challenging times. Limit exposure to negativity. Okay. So, what did we just talk about? Supportive people by staying connected. Limit the negative ones. If you got people that kind of wallow in that negativity, in that challenge with you, stay away from those people as much as possible. Things that you read online. There's a whole lot of negativity going on right now online. I mean, we're flooded with it. Stay away from that stuff as much as possible. Visualizations, okay, can go along with meditation. Visualizing a good outcome, visualizing what you actually want, even though you're struggling at the moment. Along with that, you can break down the big problems, the big challenges that you're going through along that path, along that journey. Break them down into smaller bits. Okay. One good way of doing that, or one good way of encouraging yourself, motivating yourself, is to set and track small achievable goals within the process. And really what I mean by that, as much as anything, is refocusing. Okay. You take the big goal, break it into smaller ones, that's like setting them, track them when you meet these smaller goals. And that could be something as simple as you recognized that you were kind of going on and on and on with this problem at this moment, these negative thoughts for the last 10 minutes, is that you actually recognized it and you shifted that thought, or you went to the gym, or you called a friend, tell me something good. I'm having a moment, make me laugh. And then actually track that. Put those in your journal. Hey, here's what I did to overcome it today, and it worked, right? And the last one out of the 10 that I wanted to bring up was professional help. Don't hesitate if it's really that bad to get professional help. But guess what? They're going to hold your hand through doing all of the steps we just talked about. Okay, these are the things that even the professionals, this is where it comes from. This is what they're going to have you do. These aren't pie in the sky, rah, fluff techniques. These are the techniques that work. They're just so simple, and we hear them so often, we overlook them. We forget about them. Okay. Something else to think about, to really consider, is faith. Faith in ourselves, number one. Why? What do we say? Well, I struggle accomplishing the things I want to accomplish. You're still here. You've still got family and friends and loved ones. You still have people that love you. You still have people that support you, even if it's only one or two. Even if you're a recluse and you don't have a large, circle of influence, you've still got a couple. There's nothing wrong with that if that's your personality. You still have that. If you don't, I guarantee you can go out and get one or two people from your sphere of influence, or create new ones, find new ones that can be a supportive person, just simply someone to spend a few minutes with once in a while. That's believing in ourselves, meaning understanding that we have that ability to do that, even if it's hard, challenging for us. Okay. Faith in the future. Faith that you will get there, or that you will at least get somewhere other than where you feel stuck. Right? If you think back, regardless of how old you may be or what your life's been, you've gone through a lot and you've still made it through. And chances are, outside of a major trauma, there's been times in your life that have been worse than today, which can give you hope in the future that, well, if today's better than that day, then tomorrow can be better than this day, than today. So finally is, of course, faith in whatever you deem as your higher power, whatever higher power you believe in. Okay. For me, that's God. For you, it's whatever yours is. But having some sort of faith that is beyond you, that is outside of yourself. Okay. Keeping faith, some level of faith, is like, I don't know, it's like holding onto a compass while you're in the middle of the ocean, right? You're in the middle of the ocean, you look out, all you see is water. You don't know what weighs what. But if you got a compass in your hand and you have any clue where you came from, then you know which direction to head, right? It could be the desert, the forest, wherever you're at. It's like holding that compass so you know which way to go. Okay. It guides us. It gives us a strength that goes far beyond what we generally believe is humanly possible, or what we're generally would be capable of. Even though we're made in the image and we're given authority, having that level of faith that there's something more beyond me gives me that added strength. That gives people that added strength. So look, the insights that I truly want to want you to grasp today and to actually internalize. I don't just want you to recognize it. I don't just want you to get an understanding of the differences as well as the relationship, but I want you to internalize it, personalize it. And that is that both the journey itself and the destination that you're moving toward, both are important. Okay. And neither would be very significant or would be very successful without the other. But at the same time, they're also completely independent of each other. Okay. One of them, as we shared earlier, one of the two can honestly feel pretty lousy once in a while. Okay. While we're going through it, or once we get there. When we're in that moment, sometimes they can feel pretty lousy. Okay. While the other one maybe is exactly what we wanted it to be. Right? If your journey is giving you doubts, it's got you feeling uncertain and it's really challenging you, beating you up, or beating you down, that painful experience, it will most often make the arrival to whatever destination you're heading to, whatever goal you're striving to get, it'll make it sweeter when you get there because you actually had to go through something to make it. At the same time, if the destination winds up being well below your expectation when you get there, you can still look back at the journey that you took and you can appreciate things, right? You can appreciate all of those steps that you took, all of the effort that you put in, all the stepping stones that you made it beyond, okay? The lessons that you learned during the process. And quite frankly, we can just look at them as all the experiences that you had on that journey. Be them good or bad, right? They gave you more knowledge. They actually gave you more capabilities. They gave you more strength so that when you get to that next journey, you've got something more to work with. Okay. And remember, when everything is said and done, going through a journey, going after a goal and struggling to get there, when it's all said and done, it's the journey and the struggles that we tell the stories about, not the goal. I mean, think about it. What does a team do? What do sports do? I've said this so many times in different trainings and different videos. They win a trophy, it gets put up on the shelf. Years later, they're talking about the struggle. Oh, do you remember that game? Do you remember that play? Do you remember when we were doing A, B, C, D and everything we went through to get to that? And guess what? You probably don't even have that, or you barely even remember. Well, what happened? What did we do when we got there? What was the outcome? Because when we get to a destination, the majority of the time, it's just a pivot point.